Hey, how's it going, people? I'm back over here on my base building tutorial. This is where we left off after the last one. We got a nice solid big foundation for the whole rest of it. This episode I'm going to build what I call the Dino hangar. It's that big octagonally shaped, you know, box basically. But it uses behemoth gates for a lot of the walls, which saves you a lot of load time, and I think it looks nicer. And since it's mostly circular, it has a lot of area inside. It gets a lot of volume inside. You get all that. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting down the center point. I want exactly in the center, which is about, from an edge 5 from the corner, and put a couple of those diagonals down. What we want to do is get 8 out in every direction. 8 ceilings out. And some of this work is really precise. I did some experimenting with some of the new blocks, like the fence supports, and saw if I could use those to make this less complicated or less ugly. And they sort of work, but they didn't make it less complicated or less ugly. It's still pretty ugly. So I've got a more simple way of doing it, but I am doing it a little bit more complicated than I normally do. What I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to hide these fence foundations underneath the floor. The behemoth gates will snap to them, but they'll be hidden, so it'll be a nice clean look, but it does take some extra steps to do it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and get a level to snap stuff onto ceilings, but I'm going to try and put them under the floor. So I'm going to try and set, basically inset down into the floor, less than a full wall length, because I want it to still be pretty close to this floor. So what I'm going to do here is a cool trick. You can put a fence foundation onto a table like this. It treats it as if it's a floor. You just got to get the right snap. That's the one. Now watch this. See how it's up like that? I can actually pick up the table and it still floats because it still counts as touching the ceiling. Now I'm going to put down a pillar. Normally the pillar would be a little lower than that, but this gives me like a half step up. See, that's the normal height. This is a half wall higher than normal. And then I'm going to try and go work down from here. I was kind of experimenting around with this, so I was fishing around for snap points, and I got the wrong ones sometimes. But yeah, this is some experimental stuff. I experimented with the fence supports. I experimented with several other methods. This ended up being the cleanest one I found, so I think that actually did snap down. But it's hard to tell, so what I'm going to do is take this floor out eventually. Start that over. Okay, no, alright. Now I double check, it is the higher, the normal one. And take this floor out. Now I can see how low I'm going. There we go. I got that was basically a full wall down. Now I want to go another full wall down and put that ceiling down. There we go. Now that's like a half wall down from below and diagonal. And I'm going to support this one right here, and the pillar peeks up through that level, but it doesn't peek up to the higher level, so it's still hidden away. And now I'm going to drive it down into the ground for support. Something interesting to note, those fence foundations that I ran out, eight away from the center to get out here, that helps me figure out exactly where to place these, but I don't want to leave those there on the floor because they're ugly. And if I disconnect them, this other structure here will be not connected to the main structure, so it will not be supported anymore. So watch this. I cracked that. All the rest of it downstream from that just broke, except for the ceiling that I just supported. It should have remained. Now if I crack this, all those also break because they're technically not connected anymore because they were only connected via snaps. So there we go. This one's still here because I've supported it independently. This technically counts as an independent structure right here. And some of the pieces that will be connected to it will technically count as an independent structure, but they'll be lined up perfectly with the other behemoth gates and stuff down the road. But try not to. You can't actually put too much onto this. That's why I'm running another support down, because these technically have their own support, their own structure. They're totally independent. So you actually can't put too much off of them because it won't reach. But there's my below the floor diagonal that has some support. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to run that out a little further, and then I'm going to take some of these ceilings off temporarily. Take that one off. Try and put a fence foundation here. But yeah, this stuff's in the way. Alright, see, now that fence foundation that I just put down, that's where the behemoth gate will actually snap. And it's under the floor, but the weird thing about behemoth gates is it'll snap to that, but it'll match the height of the ceiling above it. So even though it'll actually be connected to these fence foundations, it'll be at the right level to match the rest of the base. Very strange behavior that it has, but it works. Like, it'll do what we want. And so now I've also just run a fence foundation onto the rest of the structure here at a diagonal. That fence foundation is technically connected to my diagonal independent structure down there, but it's sitting on top of the top level. Yeah, let's have a look. See, this is the separate diagonal independent structure. That one fence foundation runs up on top. It's technically connected to this lower structure. And yeah, it's kind of quirky, but it makes for a real clean final product. So I'm going to end up putting these tall walls on here. But this is backwards, so I'm going to flip it. I forgot to do the triangle thing. So I'm going to do it again. Line up and get the right snap. Press triangle, flip it. Oops, lost it. Oops, I think that I reflipped that. I gotta redo it again. Get the right snap, flip it, there. And now I put the wall, and it shows blue. It's on the inside. That might not actually matter as much. A lot of the metal pieces, they seem to be the same either way, but I try to do it consistently just in case you don't want to find out that something is lined up a little goofy way into your build. So just for testing, I'm gonna run this height up, and the final product will have this 8 across, just making sure that I can put 8 across. They're still supported by that underneath structure. As long as it's connected and supported, it doesn't matter if it, looks awkward like this. And then the gate will go right here, and there we go. That's how it will be at this diagonal. See, that behemoth gate snapped to the connection point under the floor, but since there was a floor above it, it sat on the floor above it, even though it's technically connected to the structure below it. Very kind of quirky, but really handy. That's one of the cool things about this bizarre build system. It's got a lot of quirks. It's got a lot of strange snap points that don't make sense, but it lets you do a lot of really cool stuff if you work with it right. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one of the gates that's aligned with the regular ceiling directions, not diagonal. And for this one, instead of dropping pillars and trying to establish a new slightly lower snap point, I'm just going to use this one that we saved down below. You keep one of these ceilings from the first episode at this 2 snaps below level. And we can use that to hide the wall, hide the fence foundation. So I'm going to go 8 out, and then I'm going to mark it with the fence foundation so I can see where I need to go underground. That'll stick out the bottom. Okay, go down below, you can see it. So I'm going to run these ceilings over to it without actually going to a pillar, so they won't be supported. It'll make it easier to remove them later. If you're on survival, you can use thatch or wood or whatever to be cheaper. But I'm just going to use stone because I don't want to have my bar full of every kind of ceiling. So anyway, so I ran it to that support right there. Now it's supported on both sides, but I don't want all these in the middle, so I'm going to take these out. These are completely unnecessary. Alright, so now I've got a supported ceiling nearby. I'm going to go one more. And this is where the fence foundation will sit, on that ceiling under the floor. And the behemoth gate will snap to it. But it'll snap to this, but it'll actually sit on these ceilings above. It's kind of neat behavior that it does, like I was just explaining. It works just as well on the not diagonal, on the regular square edge. Also, make sure you use the outer snap for these behemoth gates. You want the outer snap on the ceiling edge, not the inner snap. It just looks nicer that way, and it makes it easier to match the overlap of the tech gates later. I'll show you. But yeah, see, there you go. You can see it's actually snapping to that under the floor, just like the other one did. But yeah, I'm gonna end up putting all those last. So I'm gonna go with a tall wall here, and eventually we'll have 3 high, and we'll go all the way up here. Oops, that's too many. We'll have 3 tall walls. Each tall wall is 4. So 3 times 4, we got 12. That's how tall a behemoth gate is 12. So they'll match up. And since we're using tall walls, that counts as one structure. That makes the load time quicker. And since we're using metal, that's fewer polys. Makes the render time faster. These are going to be hidden anyway, but it still loads into memory. And, every little optimization's handy when you're loading a big base. They actually added snap points for all 4 of the heights on this thing now. Used to not have them. And I got the wrong one. You have to do this in a certain order, though. I've actually messed up here. If you place the walls before you place the ceilings for that same level, you'll run into an issue in just a second here where you can't go through the wall. It says it's obstructed. So you actually need to build this in a particular order. You don't do the full height of your support walls until last. So I take that down. You're going to want to overlap these like this. On this side of my structure, I don't have a lower level. There's room for 2 levels in between inside every 4 walls. But I don't use all of them on this side. I just use the higher one for my flyers. On the other side, I use both. But on this side, I only use the one. Also, there's 2 snaps here. There's an inside snap and an outside snap. Make sure you get the right one if you want to be consistent. I got the inside snap. Alright, so I'm just going to count off another one. Do another one of the right angle ones. And count out 8. This is what I consider the front door. So on this one, I'm also going to try and offset some fence foundations to do a tech gate. Put a tech gate on top of it. A tech behemoth gate. And I'm going to carry the ceiling just 2 snaps below ceiling height from over there. And use it again. I'm going to use this on all the ones that are at a square angle. And on the tech gate itself, its snap point is different from the regular behemoth gates. It's offset a half ceiling in 2 different directions, plus 1 more ceiling out from the center. Coming up, I try to do the proper snap point for the tech gate, and I get it wrong. I try just 1 over one half over, and then that doesn't work, and then I try a couple others. So you can see I kind of skip around and do a bunch of testing. But yeah, it's coming up. I'm just going to skip ahead because it takes some trial and error to figure out which one is the right one. But yeah, this is how you snap halfway. You do a half snap center to center like that, and then if it's the wrong direction, you just do the 90-degree snap. So that turned out to be the wrong snap. I skip ahead here. I do some checking. Check the behemoth gate, and then check the tech gate. It's the wrong snap. So I try another snap. Try the middle one. Try that one out. Also the wrong snap. So I try again. Try the other side further out instead, and clean these up. And this is the right one right here. Now watch this. So that one's off over to the side, and put the behemoth gate on it. Boom! Look at that. Lines up. That's what you want. It lines up with the stone gate. The tech behemoth gates don't have a top. They don't have a structure in between up on the top. So I want to overlap the stone and the tech so that I can still have the clean edge on the top for my top of my base. But yeah, these can't go on yet, so I got to take them down for now. So I'm basically just going to go for each side, all 8 of them, and do the same procedures that I've just done here, and I'll just kind of let it play at normal speed so you can get a good look at all the stuff. Alright, this is a problem. This ceiling here, the place where I wanted to put it, it's not going to work. I can't support it from below at this height. The pillar would stick out of the floor because there's just not enough clearance down there. So I'm going to have to improvise. One thing we can do on the left side is just to support it further out. But on this side, I'm going to have to come up with something to get the ceiling into here. Because, yeah, it definitely won't let me snap a pillar any lower than that. And that's as low as I can get from pillar support. And that's not even close. So for now, all of this is still connected to the main structure, so it's supported. But I can't rely on that the whole time because I don't want those diagonal fence foundations going across the middle. They look terrible. So I'm going to try and get down below, get a support down to ground from here, and I can use to work a little closer. That was it. That should do it right there. There's my snap. I mean, that's my height that I want. Now I need the second one on both sides of this to be supported. So I've got the right height. That is the right height. Now I just need to support it independently from the rest of this mess. So here's a cool trick. Very handy trick. In situations like this, you basically need two things for a structure to be able to be where you want it. It needs to be connected and it needs to have support under it. And they don't have to be done by the same structure. Alright, so this is what I came up with. I'm going to connect these fence foundations to each other, and it'll actually snap down onto the ground like this, but those technically count as connected because I used the snap point. Now that's the point I want right there. See that ceiling? It's not letting me place it right there, but it's showing green, so I just gotta get the right angle. And there it is. That technically counts as supported and connected to that corner. So that covers me on that side. Now I just need to get this other side, which is 2 off the middle, right here, and that'll do it. That's the one I want. So now I just gotta disconnect everything else, and I'll be in business. Back on track. Alright, I'm going to put these catwalks here across the gap because I need to get all the way over here so that I can put my overlapped corner pieces in. You need all these overlapped corner pieces in before you put the behemoth gates down, because once you put behemoth gates down, you won't be able to build these two closest pieces on each corner in each direction. You want to have the diagonal piece and the straighter piece all overlapped there. Uh, before you put the behemoth gates down, and before you put the tall walls down for the next level. Um, and you can't just use regular ceilings to go across that span, because those ceilings will block the behemoth gates. So yeah, you basically want to go around the edge of each one of these interior shelves level by level, overlap all the corners. You want to have two pieces going in both directions on each corner like that. You see, I've got I'll make like a cat ear shape sticking out the corner. But yeah, you do that on all the edges, all the corners. You put in what you can for the edges, and you do all that before you go to the next tall wall level. Do it again on the next shelf, and then eventually I'll get to the very top ceiling. You got to put the ceiling pieces that will go across the top of the behemoth gate. You need to put those in before you put the behemoth gate down too. So basically, there's 3 levels, 2 interior shelves, and then the upper deck. And then once all that's in place, you can finally put down the behemoth gates. It'll take a while though. Alright, that's all the support structures that have to go in before the behemoth gates. That's what it ought to look like. I got the edges of the shelves. Yeah, I've got all the support towers pieces. Now, here comes the cool part. Putting in the behemoth gates. Look at that. Snapped right in. Look at that. That's how they're supposed to overlap, just like that. No, no walls sticking out. Just perfectly lined up. There's another one. Hides all the walls. Hides those overlaps on the corners. You can't even see the seam that it's, you can't even see the snap point that it's snapping onto. Everything's nice and hidden. Looks real clean. Alright, that cleans up the edge there. Put a nice railing on it. Pretty much finishes the look, finishes the tutorial for the day as well. Look at that. Nice big old dino hanger, plenty of space in there. It's got extra shelves for extra animals. And it looks pretty sharp, looks pretty nice. We got the big behemoth gates on, we got the tech gates on. It looks pretty great. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I kind of hid some of the behemoth gate snap points under the floors, which I haven't done before. Looks really cool. So yeah, I'm gonna probably have another part to do the workshops and the human quarters. Basically, up on top we got workshops, kitchens, gardens, storage, and some rooms for you park your characters. But yeah, that'll be the last part most likely. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying this and you want to see the rest. And have a good one.